Good morning, everybody. We'll go ahead and get started. I'm staying very close to these two so the microphones pick me up because I don't have a mic. So, just so you wonder. We are really happy that so many of you have come today to learn about the Guernsey Power Station. I don't think there's much more of an intro that I need to do. You know we're going to get this power station. Mike and Mary King are going to present the details of that and the plans that are forthcoming. And we've been working with them and Norm and a lot of people for many months, and so we're very excited about this addition. So I'm just going to turn it over to Mike and Mary, and you can see they have a lot of presentation for you this morning, and we're anxious to hear all about it. So there you go.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're just going to walk through some boards and informational for you. But we're Mike and Mary King. We actually live in the Indianapolis area, so we're not too far from Ohio here. And our company is Apex Power Group, and we develop power plants and utility-sized power plants, as you're going to learn this morning. And we have successfully completed some projects in California. In 2009, we completed a 400 megawatt project in Fresno County, California, and just last year in November we came online with a 300 megawatt project in San Diego, California. So as I said, we're from Indiana and we're very happy to be back in America working again. No, and actually to that point, we started investigating as we started learning how much gas is produced in the Marcellus and Utica. We started investigating the vast amount of reserves and the way the pipelines were working, and in fact reversing flows. And we investigated a great number of areas in western and southwestern Pennsylvania and eastern and southeastern Ohio. So we covered a broad area as we were searching for a location for our project. And so we studied many areas before we landed on Guernsey County. And the one thing I just really wanted to make note of is that our first stop here was to see Norm Blanchard and ask the question, if we were to develop a project like this in Guernsey, would it be welcomed? And because it's very important that you have the community support. And he said, after he listened to us describe the project, he said that, Mike, we would move heaven and earth to have a project like that here. And I can tell you that after about 7 months of working with your community leaders, that's exactly what's been happening. So you guys live in a great community. We're very happy to be associated with it and be here.
Definitely.
And one other thing I'd like to say is that we have another partner who's not with us today, a company called Caithness Energy, and they're out of New York, and they actually have a power plant in Long Island, and they have a very large power plant, somewhat similar to this, under construction in Pennsylvania. And the really important part of working with Caithness is that they have the financial wherewithal to fund not only the development of the project, but they have the equity to invest in the project. So that's a major statement, and a good thing in moving the project along.
Yeah, if some of you were at our Ohio Power Siting Board informational meeting a couple weeks ago, that's where these boards came from, and we can talk a little bit more about that when we get to the permitting issues, but there were some of our partners from Caithness there. So.
Yeah. And just real quickly, Mary, why don't you tell them about the Ohio Power Siting Board and what we do with those?
So, permitting a power plant is complicated, to say the least. So we go through. We have to get really three main permits. One is really to make our interconnect to the power lines. The second one is our air permit through the Ohio EPA, and we'll also get a wastewater discharge permit from them, and we'll have to get a wetlands permit from the Army Corps. And the third one is the Ohio Power Siting Board permit. And so as part of the siting board permitting process, we have to have an informational meeting before we turn in our application, which is what we had on January the 25th. We're targeting right now to turn in our air permit application and our Ohio Power Siting Board application at the end of this month. And we're already in our interconnection process, so.
And we'll cover more of that
Yeah.
when we get to the
But,
slide.
but as part of this siting board, I'll talk a little bit more lately, but there are a lot of different parts that go into that application. And so as we kind of go through this, and we'll kind of relate to those. But, you know, we look at things like the wetlands, you look at noise, we have to demonstrate we have our air permit in, we look at traffic patterns, we look at economic impact on the community and the surrounding counties and the state of Ohio. There's just a lot of parts, moving parts.
It's worth
in it.
noting that when we file the application, it'll be a public document, so everybody
Yeah.
will be able to go to the Ohio Power Siting Board website and look at the document and read it. So just location-wise, I'm sure at least most of you have driven south on I-77 and seen those very, very large power lines that cross 77 kind of near the rest stop on the northbound side. So the project will be located right where those lines cross the highway, and so that's just south of Seneca Lane and just north of Wills Creek. And it's got I-77 on the east and the rail tracks on the west. So we can kind of...
So this gives us a little bit more details about the site. So here's what he was talking about. I-77, got Clay Pike, Marietta, Seneca Lane. So the main parcel is the parcel here north of Wills Creek, and that will have our power block on it. Okay, we'll have, he'll talk a little bit more about the plant details in just a moment, but that's the main power block. On a section south of Wills Creek is going to be our substation. And eventually, the substation will be turned over to AEP, but we have to build a substation for them. And that's where the substation is how we interconnect to these 765 kV lines, which are the highest power lines in the United States. So these are extremely, it's like a super highway that we're hooking into, which is very good because there's not a lot of congestion on it. So that gives us the ability to go with this size of plant and really just phenomenal hook-in. And then this is the Rockies Express 42-inch gas pipeline that goes across the property as well. And these are a couple of key points when we were looking for a location for to build the plant. The other thing, this is probably one of the most flattest areas in the whole Guernsey County that's above the floodplain.
True story.
So we do know there's mines under there. So, you know, as we were talking about the Ohio Power Siting Board thing, we have to talk about the mines, how we've addressed the mines, what we're going to be doing with, remediating, actually stabilizing the mines underneath for structural reasons. So anyway, that's really kind of where we're at as a site. And we are going to be bringing, working with the Village of Byesville for our water and our wastewater. So we'll be tapping into some lines that they're going to run to the corner of our property for us.
And this is actually an artist rendering of fairly close to what, it's not the final design, but it's one of the latest designs. And there's a lot to say about a modern power plant. Modern being within the last 30 years, or 30, compared to 30 years ago. I started my career 35 years ago, and just to kind of give you a sense of how much technology has changed, and people don't really talk about it, so I'm happy we have a chance to share this with you. When I started my career, a typical power plant design would take, and I'm just going to kind of give you a relative feel, it would take 10 units of fuel to make 1 unit of electricity. The efficiency has been improved to the point where we're using about 6 units of fuel to make that 1 unit of electricity. So it's a substantial improvement in efficiency, just a major improvement. Just operationally, a plant like the one I started at 35 years ago, if it was offline, it would take over 12 hours to start up. These units, we can do a full startup from cold in 2 hours, but we can actually have most of the power or a good deal of the power online in a half an hour. So This plant is actually going to be designed to be one of the most efficient plants in the whole region. In fact, until somebody comes along with something better, it will be the most efficient plant in the region. There have been, you might have read, there's been some power plants that have been permitted and under construction in Ohio. This is about 3 to 5% even more efficient than those plants because the equipment manufacturers have been continually improving, and so what's been happening is the units have been getting larger and more efficient as we go. So just one other really important thing that's kind of different about a power plant today than 30 years ago. We used to use a lot of water 30 years ago, and there were various ways that people used a lot of water. It was once through cooling, which is generally not done anymore. It uses millions and millions and millions of gallons a day. Then there are cooling towers, which are used and actually are being permitted in some of the other power plants in Ohio. But we're doing what we call dry cooling. And so these are kind of like the units on your outside air conditioner, and they're radiating the heat away from the power plant, so without using a lot of water. So we're using about less than 10% of the water that we would have otherwise used if we used a cooling tower. So it's a major, and we still will use somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 to 500,000 gallons a day of Byesville water, and that'll be for the steam cycle, and we'll talk about that. I could probably talk your ear off about the power plant designs and everything, but the point we wanted to make is that with the better efficiency, we're putting the best technology, the cleanest, using the least amount of fuel for what we're trying to accomplish, and it's the best for the environment. So we're really, really proud and happy to be able to bring this design to Guernsey.
So just what we're building is 3 separate units, and he's going to talk about the technology there. They're called one-on-one combined cycle units, which he'll explain that in just a minute. But each unit is going to give us about 550 megawatts, so a total of 1,650 megawatts, which gives you power for about 1.6 million homes in round numbers. Yeah. So it is very large.
This is a very, very large project, and I mentioned earlier the ones we did in California were 400 megawatts and 300 megawatts respectively. So this is a very large project, and it's designed to be the new, what we call base load, so it's designed to operate and expected to operate all the time.
And the plants in California are peaker plants, so what they're designed to come on very quickly and meet peak demand. So
and then go back offline.
And then go back off. So there's different kinds of technology for what you're trying to do with your plant. But this will be a baseload plant.
So the plant uses something called combined cycle technology, and actually that's somewhat it's been happening and very common in Ohio for about, I'd say, over 10 years. What's different about ours is that they're unitized, and so it's I'm getting carried away there.
Extremely efficient.
Extremely efficient. So the efficiency has been improved, but it's a really good concept because what we're doing is we're not wasting any energy. So we have the combustion turbine, and that's tied to a generator, and we make electricity with that. And
so this is burning the gas right here.
Yeah, this burns the natural gas, and then that produces heat. And so if a project were designed as what they call a simple cycle, it would be the heat would go up the stack, and that would be the end of it. But in our case, we make steam with that extra heat, and we take the steam back to a steam turbine, and we turn a generator as well, and make more power. So we've recovered. This is kind of free. It's kind of free heat and energy that you're recovering. So it's a super efficient cycle, and then we're taking advantage of the latest turns in technology to make it even the best available.
And the reason they call it one-on-one is because for each combustion turbine, there is a steam turbine. There's a couple different designs. There's something called a 2-on-1. So you have 2 gas turbines for 1 steam, but we have 1-on-1 here.
Okay.
As I mentioned through the power siting board process, it's a very, very rigorous process. So a lot of different things we have to look at. And when we talk about the community benefits of this project, I was going to touch on some of these for you. Approximately, the plant is going to cost approximately $1.4 billion to build. So it's quite a commitment on the part of our financial partners and they're helping us with some of the development cakeness to bring that equity to the table. But what we're going to look at here is benefits to the community as far as job creation during the construction period, which we're talking about is going to be somewhere between 30 and 33 months. We're going to be looking at about 500 construction jobs at the peak. So depending on where we are in the cycle, what we're needing as far as workers, that will fluctuate up and down, but we're looking at about 500 construction jobs. Then once the plant's operational, we'll have 25 permanent jobs that we will be adding. So we'll be boosting the local economy. Number one will be, the influx of people coming into the community, the salary, the wages being paid, spent here, that type of thing. We'll also be reaching out to use as much local business as we can, depending on.
I'll kind of interject and share a comment. So just yesterday we had a meeting with 4 nationally recognized contractors that specialize in building power plants, and they're all 4 going to bid on the project, bid for the right to build the project, and they will spend about 12 weeks and several hundreds of thousands of dollars putting together just their bids to figure out the cost of building the project and be prepared to take on the responsibility of that. We will negotiate with one of those parties in the June timeframe, and we will encourage them to come to town and open up what we would call a business fair, give people the way to connect and get involved with how can they do business. And in addition to that, we have a website that's guernseypowerstation.com, and when we finalize an agreement with the party and connect with them, we'll have a way for people to contact them and get in touch with each other to be able to do business. And we do get a lot of requests for people wanting to do business, and the most effective way is going to be through guernseypowerstation.com, and we'll be able to actually make the announcements and put people in touch with the right people at the time.
So the website too is a good place to go if you want information. These are actually posted on the website. There's an employment page. There's also other information, like if we have any kind of announcements or and there's also a place that you can ask a question, and so we as time moves on, encourage you to look at that. So back to the economy, the economic benefits. Our annual operating budget's going to be in the neighborhood of $20 million. So obviously that's going to be spending some monies here locally as well. And every few years we have to actually kind of do a major overhaul on each of these units depending on how many hours they've run. So then at that point, somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe 100 contractors or something will be coming in to do that type of work as well. So, and then additional revenue, like as I mentioned, we're really reaching out to try and work with the community. So we are going to be using the Village of Byesville for the water and the wastewater. So that'll be significant revenues, and then also the tax benefits from the power plant being in the village or in Valley Township as well as Cambridge, Guernsey County. So just to kind of go over a timeline, as we mentioned, we're in a project development and permitting phase, and we anticipate by the end of this year we should have all of our permits in place, and we will be able to go ahead to what's called financial close, and that's where we'll go get the debt financing that we need for the project. Once we go through financial close, we will begin our construction phase. So we're hoping to break ground in early 2018, and then to be online probably like October of 2020 is our goal right now.
So I think that is the end of our kind of prepared remarks, I guess.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I want to thank Brent Markley and Stratus Wealth Partners for sponsoring today, and for Fairfield Inn and Suites for providing the pastries. And thank you very much for making the trip over and explaining all of this to us.
And
Thank you.
we just thank all you guys for coming and
Yeah.
for all the support that you guys give us, Guernsey
Okay.
County.
Thank you very much.